EST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, opinions, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? Will and Audio here today in episode 246 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thanks so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. I hope that you guys are staying safe, staying healthy, and staying sane during these strange days here in the world. And hopefully you're ready to be taken away from that for the next hour or so, as we have a really fun episode for you here today as I sit down and do a Hodder Show Music Showcase. But we're doing things a little differently here today, as normally it's just your boy rambling on aimlessly for about 20 minutes about the songs I like and about the band, and then we play the music and all that fun stuff. But today, I actually have the pleasure of being joined by two members of the band in question that we are covering. That is Rawls Royce and their brand new EP that just came out just over a week ago now, as you guys are hearing this, Llarold. And let me tell you, it is a 4-song masterpiece, and you guys are going to absolutely love it. You're going to hear a little bit about the recording process directly from the guys themselves. You're going to hear about each song in full detail and what they love about them and fun stories about the recording process. So you guys are really, really going to enjoy this episode, I promise, especially if you are a fan of Rawls Royce. Will and Mitch are both great storytellers, and they're both very fun, entertaining dudes. So I can promise you're going to absolutely love this EP and this episode of the show. Excuse me. I want to thank everybody for the support last week on the show, my chat with Ethan. I do apologize again, Ethan, my man, the fact that it took me so long to get that freaking episode out. That episode was, it was sitting in the bag for about a month, and that was not planned. I had just craziness. Life turned upside down, as everybody knows, and my hours went crazy and blah, blah, blah. But I'm finally glad we were able to drop that episode. And things are going to be a little more banked here on the Hodder Show, I think, just to make things a little easier on me, so I'm not, cramming the day before to get stuff edited and get it out and all that stuff. I can spend a little bit more time, on it and try and, make sure it is of the highest quality that I can possibly provide. And, sometimes, good Lord, guys, as you can hear, my voice is actually starting to go a little bit because I've done so much podcasting and recording the last couple of days here. I promise I don't have the COVID or anything. It's not that. My throat's just a little raw. But you guys are going to really enjoy this episode. I promise. Really, really a lot of fun. Without further ado, I'm going to jump right into this podcast, the Hodder Show Music Showcase of Rawls Royce's brand new EP, Llarold, with Will and Mitch from the band. Let's get into it. All right, so this is cool and also different here for the Hodder Show, because usually, when I do these Hodder Show Music Showcases, I'm sitting alone in my apartment and I'm just like, yeah, this is a great record and here's why. And I talk about how awesome it is and everything. But what I'm doing today is I'm joined by two members of the band whose EP I'm actually going to be talking about today, and we're going to hear in full, and we're going to get some stories about the recording of the EP and maybe hopefully some fun little tidbits. We're going to have a good time. So I'm very excited to welcome to the show for this Hodder Show Music Showcase, Will and Mitch from Rawls Royce. What's up, boys?
Hello.
How you doing?
Good morning. How's it going, man?
Doing fantastic. Very happy to be talking to you guys today. And we are, of course, talking about your brand new EP, Llarold. Did I get it?
Nailed it.
Yeah. Yay! I'm so happy. Not like if you guys are regular listeners of my show, you heard me last week on the outro pronounce it Llarold or Llarold, I think.
Llarold.
But yeah, it's Llarold. I don't know.
I love it. There's such a southern drawl to Llarold.
Llarold.
It's like a pecan situation.
Yeah, they're both technically correct.
Yeah, that's fine. Tomato, potato. Fine.
Potatoes.
Yeah.
The forsaken potato. Anyway, so what we're going to do here today is we're going to talk a little bit about the EP and then we're going to hear all the songs and everything. So before we get into actually listening to the EP itself, which I might add, just full disclosure, obviously I've already heard it and listened to it and enjoyed it thoroughly in my car and everything. And I'm a fan, man. I love it. I mean, I love you guys regardless. Even if it was crappy, I'd be like, no, it's so good, bro. But it's actually really good.
Does not make me feel any better. Why would you say that?
I'm just joking.
If you love us, you gotta tell us that you hate it if you hate it.
If it sucked, I'd be like,
if they tell me it's good.
If it sucked, I'd be like, yeah, it's pretty good, guys. Yeah. Oh, I'm really busy that day. We were supposed to do the show. Sorry.
Okay.
That's how you. Real quick disclosure, guys. If I don't do a review, that probably means I don't like it. I feel really bad for admitting that, but I'm feeling really honest right now. But no, I actually like freaking love it. And full disclosure, Shoder's my fiance. She liked it.
Oh, really?
Hey, cool.
Yeah, that's the measuring stick.
That's the big stick. Yeah.
So it's awesome. But so before we get into actually hearing the songs themselves, walk me through. Well, first and foremost, before we even go any further, tell the good people what exactly both you guys do for the band and did on the EP itself.
Mitch, would you like to go first?
If you'd like me to, Will.
Yes, I would.
Okay. Yeah, so my name's Mitch. I play guitar on the EP. I do some singing, but we leave most of the singing to Will and Kyle. And yeah, I found this was like a very collective writing process. So oftentimes like Will or I would come to the group with an idea and then we just kind of work outwards from that. But yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it more later, but Will, what am I missing here? What do I need to add?
So what else did he do? Anything else? Did he like help get donuts, or did he just literally come play guitar and go home and sing a little?
No. I mean, like Mitch is kind of the glue of the band because he effectively is the linkage between everyone in the band. And he's also, I'd like to say him like he's almost like this, I don't want to say like the Swiss border because I think that's like an inaccurate metaphor, but almost like the hub of the network. You know, If you know network theory, you got hubs and spokes. Anyway, so basically like Mitch is what connects Johnny to I, and what connects Kyle to Johnny and I is all through kind of Mitch. But Mitch is also kind of like the arbitrator? Yeah, is that the correct word? See, I'm going off here.
I have no idea what you're talking about, so you've lost me. But it sounds right, so let's go with it.
Mitch is kind of like the mitigator of band issues, I think. Is that a good mitigator? Is that a Mitch? Would you?
Well, as with a lot of bands, you get like, it's like it's a lot of times a clash of egos. You have this riff or this part that you love, and then you come forward with it, and then you just get shit on, and it's sometimes there's some conflict that comes to the fore.
I don't know why this is making me laugh so much, but I'm just picturing you guys in the studio. Like
I have the most caustic personality in the studio.
We try to get it all out before we go into the studio, though.
So you're basically like kind of like the Dr. Phil of the band,
That
maybe not Dr. Phil, but that's
I'm good with it. I like that analogy.
You said that. So how does that make you feel? Kyle shit on my riff. How does that? Because now that you said that, not Kyle. I meant to say Will. I'm now picturing you, because you just made that joke about you being caustic. I'm picturing you like sitting with a crown on a throne, just like sitting there. You can't see my hands because of my mic thing, but they're claps like this. It's just like I do not feel this part. You just be gone.
Worse than that. It's so much worse. I think like
he's not that.
I'm nowhere near that diplomatic. No.
I just find that so hard to believe because, with my dealings with you, you always had like a nice, polite, fun guy, and then
that's the only.
We try to come across that way.
The truth is coming out.
Oh, I guess I should specify what I do in the band.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay. I play guitar and sing and write songs. Not all the songs. Mitch also writes songs. Kyle also writes songs, and that's what I do. I don't play guitar as well as Mitch, so
Mitch is the guitar aficionado of the band.
Pretty much.
Well, not a bad role to be in, for sure. So as far as the actual EP itself, obviously for regular This Is My Show, you guys know all about Rawls Royce because, I did. One of my, still to this day, my favorite EP reviews that I ever did for the EP and so on. I still talk about that, by the way, like pretty regularly. So still a favorite here on the show. But walk me through, because when you go back and listen to and so on, compared to now with Llarold, yeah, did I do it right? Yeah, I did it right. Yay, twice now. I got it. There is definitely, to me, a little bit of an evolution, I would say, but it still feels to me just like the vibe with and so on. And I think I spoke with you about this, Will, as well, when you were on the show before. This was probably episode like 209 or something like that. So this was talking a little while ago here now. But I think that the vibe of just like you're sitting in a pub with all your buddies and you're all singing along to this great band that's playing, and it's very like kind of feel good music, while still having a bit of an edge to it. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of how I broke it down compared to now with Llarold. It still has that edge to it. It almost has, in some regards, more of an edge to it to me. Like I hear, dare I say, almost kind of post-hardcore elements a couple times where I'm going, damn, okay. Like that was a pretty heavy little section there. But then also there's definitely more, I don't think pop punk is the right term I'm trying to find, but we'll go with it because I'm very uneducated. It's very just like there's some moments where I'm like, oh, this is very accessible to everybody, even someone who necessarily isn't a fan of punk. So kind of walk me through the evolution from you guys going from and so on, which was kind of more of a straight up punk rock record, now to Llarold, where I feel like you kind of have a little bit of an evolution happening.
Well, I think we still aspire to have that slamming beers at a pub and you want to sing
For
along
sure,
with your pals. Like we kind of work outward from there. But I'm sure Will could say a lot more to like the post-hardcore influences and stuff. Like I'm thinking at the end of You Can't Play Chell, the Chelsea Wolf, that outro kind of slams. Mm-hmm. Will screaming over top of it. But yeah, like you said, we try to have big choruses and we want to, write especially catchy vocal melodies that get stuck in your head. We used to joke and call it the CCR test, like the CCR whistle test. Because
it's like a serious thing that we do.
Yeah, because every CCR song you can whistle it, gets stuck in your head. And so we aspire to write melodies that are half as good as that. But I guess like in a like slamming beers in your basement or in a bar context.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is, based on how many shows we play. And so when we did and so on, we played probably our longest kind of string of live shows. So we played, I don't know, quite a few that year. And then it just became more difficult because the band was kind of all spread out all over the place. And, Mitch and Johnny being in New Brunswick, it made it more difficult to kind of play that kind of amount of shows. Mm-hmm. So when we came in to write and record everything, I mean, firstly, we all met up in May of last year and kind of sat down and fleshed everything out within about 2 months, and then went in to record in July. So we basically wrote the whole EP within 2 months and then recorded it. And so I think from that standpoint, we weren't getting that kind of same feedback that you do when you test songs live, where you kind of play the waters, you kind of look at how people respond to the songs. And so you're right, it doesn't have that like same vibe as being like in the pub. That being said though, it allowed us to kind of push our mindset out of, let's say playing more or less to the lowest common denominator. Like there are songs that we had on and so on that translated really well live, like Or Else, that on the EP were a little shakier. but it was different because they were so predicated on the live sort of aspect of it.
You knew that, okay, this is going to be a song that is going to translate very well live because we've seen it. Okay, I got you.
And so what happens is you start to write songs based on what would do well live, and you're not thinking about what sounds good on a record, or maybe we should try to push our horizons a bit more, right? So it's so easy to fall into like cowboy chords, ACG.
Yeah, and for sure.
Like that's so easy because that kills live, because people who don't know you know 4 or 5 chords, they know simple melodies, and that's enough to get them into it. But if you look at like songs like Don't Let Me Go on this EP, we really kind of test ourselves a little bit more in terms of a writing and what we could kind of effectively do, because I mean, there's kind of 2 trains of thought on this. There are some people that say that that records should be able to be replicated 100% live, that they should be a reflection of the live band. But then there's another train of thought that says, well, no, records are kind of their own experience that's separate from live, because it's an experience that is kind of contextual to like someone listening to music by themselves. Maybe they're not out or whatever. So you should try to, I'm of the belief that you should try to push your boundaries a bit more on a record than you like, it doesn't have to sound identical to how a band would sound live. But I mean, for us, like, there's going to be songs where we're going to have to practice probably 3 or 4 times as hard to do well live, The other thing is, too, is we liked how And So On sounded probably the most on the last record, like the song And So On. And so there's always that in the back of our mind, where here is a song that's hard to replicate live, that has all these sort of changes, that's very complex. But then, we should kind of take that complexity and, like, let's say we have more simpler songs like You Want to Take Me Home. How much can we kind of squeeze into 3 minutes? Can we get a time change in 3 minutes in it? And I think we did that pretty effectively.
Our drummer is always pushing us, Johnny, to he calls it, he wants us to be rhythmically interesting, right? Because like he'll be the first person to shit on our cowboy chord suggestion, and then he'll be like, all right, it's catchy, but like, how do we work out from that? And the Elon Take Me Home was kind of his baby in many ways on this EP, because he really wanted us to have a dance song. And so it is
definitely that too. That's the second I saw that. I mean, I joked with the guys earlier about how, like, the second I saw it, I was like, I swear to God, if this is Country Roads or something, I said, like, I'm out, but like, I mean that in the best way, obviously, because I'm going to be like, but it's definitely a very, like you said, just speaking as a whole for the whole EP, like it's definitely, it still has that vibe, which is what, made me such a fan of you guys, where I'm sitting in my kitchen listening to And So On, and I'm literally feeling like I'm sitting in a pub singing along. That's how it feels. It definitely still has that vibe, which is when someone says, oh, what's up with this Rawls Royce band? I'm like, they're a band that you feel like you're listening to them live, listening to an EP, and it's just the best time. And that's kind of like, but it's still interesting. It's not like you're listening to some cover band that, these guys are killing this song, but would I buy their record and listen to it? Probably not, to be honest. But there's still a lot going on, and with how things are now with Llarold, there's definitely, like you were saying, rhythmic complexity, and there's just there's a little bit more going on as far as on the actual record. So that's cool to hear from you too, Will, about how, like, it was kind of a very focused effort as far as, okay, we're not worrying so much about playing these songs live. Let's just make a great offering of songs, and then we'll kind of figure it out from there. Walk me through, before we get into the actual music here, which you're going to in a second. Was there any, like, kind of funny stories as far as from the recording? Like, how did the recording process go? Especially seeing that, half the band lives a few provinces away. Was there anything funny from that, or?
Well, we had alluded to a little bit of conflict earlier, and how sometimes I tend to sort of temper well, but like I would say that a lot of the writing for this EP, it was very dialectical. So like, and that can.
It's Mitch. You should explain what dialectical.
I was gonna say, what the fuck? Because
in layman's terms, man, like Will would have.
I feel like we need like a whiteboard to explain our process half the time.
You're talking to a small town dumb redneck, man. Don't get me wrong. I know.
Like it's so silly. Like all these things, like they're all learnable. Like they're not like these complex like ideas. There's easily broken down. If anything, it's our fault for not being able to convey it properly.
Right. And I'll do my best to convey it just sort of in like the simplest terms. Like it's basically this idea that like through conflict came progress. So because Johnny and I were in New Brunswick for like 4 months since we last jammed. Will had these ideas, and Will had been playing them for months on end, and he had got this idea in his head, and he wanted it to sound a certain way. And then we'd be like, all right, man, that's pretty sick, but like, have you considered this or tried this? And he would be totally opposed to it. And then there would be like a minor fight, and we'd have to hash it out. But like from that would come some growth. And I found like with this EP in particular, like Kyle really came out of his shoes, and everybody was contributing and putting forth ideas, and I think it made for some growth in the songwriting. And it's not like we were screaming at each other or anything, but there.
Well, it's like.
Maybe I was. No, I think Mitch is right on that. I think like anything, you kind of, because there was such periods of sort of isolation and withdrawal, you become psychologically attached to the flow of ideas when you're writing. So sections become more important than others, or you see them as being kind of like this complex chain that really can't be broken. It's logically thought out because you've been stewing on it. So a song like Elon, for example, I had like a bunch of riffs that I had sort of constructed all together. It was like a 5-minute song. There was like an acoustic section. And it was like more, I don't know, maybe proggy or something to that effect. And I wanted to write about like the Spanish Revolution. Like it was all over the place, I think, ideally. And then Mitch is like, well, why don't we just play it like kind of more simple, like a dance bit? And then the night before we kind of really sat down and wrote it, Kyle got drunk. Well, actually, yeah, I think Kyle was drinking. We all just kind of got drunk and did this kind of jam to John Denver's Country Road Take Me Home. And then it kind of turned into Elon Take Me Home. And then like Kyle in essence wrote the chorus to Elon Take Me Home. I think
he had his mandolin, I recall.
He had a mandolin out, yeah. And we just kind of said, oh yeah, actually we should say where we wrote all this. So what happened was my dad has a farm, and during he was gone to Florida, and so all of us went up for a big weekend and said, we're going to sit down and we're going to write out the entire EP in this weekend. We had X amount of beers. We had lots of barbecue going. We played lots of Frisbee. And basically we did that for about 3 days. And that's how kind of Elon transpired out of these riffs. Just a lot of reorganization of riffs. Johnny, of course, wanting to do a bit of a dance beat and stuff like that. But like, so much of it was just kind of hashed out at that farm weekend in the start of May. And there's a little bit of conflict with it, but it's like going to the gym, right? Like you need resistance to get stronger.
Sure. Yeah. I think even, some of the best, artists out there will tell you, if there's not a little bit of conflict in writing a record, is it really going to be that great? Or it's like with anything, if there's not a little bit of maybe hardship isn't the right word, but it from doing this show, I've learned from musicians and stuff that sometimes it needing to be as great as it is to just sit down when you're in a great place and there's everything super easy and these songs just flow out of you. And it's like, oh, this was the easiest record we've ever made. Like everything was great. That's wonderful when that happens. But when it can almost be, I guess what I'm trying to say, a very like cathartic experience where it's very like you're letting this out. And okay, yeah, there was maybe some resistance. That's what was happening with you guys, but like there was a little bit of resistance, a little bit of hardship, maybe some fighting, whatever, and then you can kind of put that energy towards creating these great songs and this great recording, and you sit back and go, okay, Like from what I've learned the past few years doing this show, those always end up being the best EPs and the best records.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, we'll let the people judge for themselves, because now comes the time where we're going to play the full EP in its entirety. And what we're going to do here is I'm going to give you guys the track list, and then we're going to dive into all 4 songs. Then we'll come back with the guys and we will basically do a breakdown of each song. So the first song that we're going to hear is Woke, Stoked, and Broke. Then Elon, Take Me Home. You Can't Play Shell with Chelsea Wolf, which I have a really stupid question about.
Stupid question.
And then Don't Let Me Go. Well, we'll ask the question after, because it's a really stupid question. And then Don't Let Me Go, which is a great one. So 4 great songs, 15 minutes-ish of kick-ass music. So we're going to get into that right now, take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Will and Mitch from Rawls Royce to break the songs down. Talk guys in a little bit.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumb for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. 'Cause I'm dumb. Not that fucking dumb. Say it won't trickle down, but you're just pissing on my face and got enough to eat at home. You got your sweet, don't matter. No, I won't lick the crumbs off your plate. You dick. What you think that I'm dumb? Not that fucking dumb. One other climber kid has wrapped a horse around the tree. Yeah, they were the mighty conquers, but the poor and needy, they're all selfish and greedy. To you, it's true, because you know we're staring, we're at the abyss. You know we're staring, and I don't even feel surprised. I knew I'd come to this. Because you know we're staring, we're at the abyss. You know we're staring, and I don't even feel surprised. I knew I'd come to this. Because you know we're staring, we're at the abyss. You know we're staring, and I don't even feel surprised. I knew I'd come to this. Because you know it's swearing, the sound of your lips. You know it's swearing, you're lying through your teeth tonight. I knew I'd come to this. Why can't you just fucking settle down? Lie asleep like you broke You let up, I let down. Tires burning streets as you pick my feet up off the ground. It's a long shot, but a chance you take. A waiting opportunity. You let up, I let down.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening to The Hodder Show right now. Are you in a band? Maybe you're a business owner of some kind, a performer, maybe a pro wrestler, an event promoter, an athlete, or maybe you're just an everyday person who needs some photo editing done. You need a great graphic design guy, and have I ever got the hookup for you? My man and close personal friend, Mr. Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts. Whether you need logos, t-shirts, stickers, tickets, business cards, banners, menu, brochures, flyers, posters, Facebook banner videos, door hangers, photo editing and restoration, print ads, lyric video editing, signs, notepads, window clings, letterhead, bookmarks, programs, magnets, greeting cards, calendars, rack cards, invitations, envelopes, pens. Jason will work with you to develop a style that is unique to you and that tells everybody just how special your business, event, or you personally are, and you will stand out from the crowd. On top of the fact that he does offer free delivery between Cobourg, Ontario and Kingston, Ontario, message him today right now for a free quote. That's right, a free quote. Tell him about your idea. You got something outside the box, he will make it happen. With great rates and service, you cannot go wrong. I've used Jason literally for everything over the past 3.5 years, and I cannot say enough good things about the man himself and his work. So contact him today on the web at jaybirddigitalarts.com or on social media under jaybirddigitalarts. That's JAYBIRD digitalarts.com. You can also email him at jaybird.digital.arts@gmail.com. And always keep in mind that his business is successful when your business looks good. And now let's get back to the show. All right, guys, we're back here with Will and Mitch from Rawls Royce talking about the EP that we just heard in full, Llarold, a badass EP, really fun. And we're going to break down those songs for you guys. So usually what I do on these showcases is I'll pick, either my favorite or my 3 favorite tracks off the EP or album and kind of just give my brief thoughts on it. But this is really special because we actually have the guys here today to break down each song. So I'm very, very excited about this. So the first song that we heard was Woke, Stoked, and Broke. And it's definitely a super energetic song with a message that I think everyone can relate to. There's definitely kind of some heavier moments. I alluded to earlier that I felt there was a couple moments on this record where I was like, oh, okay. Like, especially vocally. Like, I was like, oh, okay. I hear you. All right, okay. Not that I didn't know that you guys had that in you, like, because there are definitely moments on, even just speaking from and so on, where there's definitely some heavy moments vocally, but I feel like there's definitely a couple moments on this EP that's very like, I did not see that part coming, and definitely that is apparent on here, and it's definitely a track that I loved. So kind of walk me through what Woke, Soaked, and Broke is. What was kind of the thoughts with that song?
Who wants to do it? You want to do it, Mitch, or me? I don't know.
Well, I think you should talk about the break down like lyrically. Maybe start there about what it's about.
Yeah. So Woke, Stoked, and Broke is a song that I initially started working when I worked as a barista at Starbucks, and it kind of unfolded as this thing that I would hum as I was taking out the garbage. Which is a kind of a weird way to write it down.
I don't know why that's funny to you, but that just made me smile. That was great.
But yeah, no, basically I wrote that song being like really pissed off and working a service job, and kind of how fucking awful you're treated in those kind of jobs. And so much of that is, I mean, here I was, this guy with his master's degree, and then I'd have, rich white women yell at me about fucking whether or not I put too much soy in their latte.
I ordered a no soy, extra soy, like, extra foam, no foam.
Yeah, literally. Like if I didn't make it extra hot, then someone would literally call the store. Yeah, like seriously. And so I think that song was kind of built out of this kind of general resentment. And I think that's why, the notion of, being dumb. But then there's also like a second meaning to it, which is kind of a more political one. So, just basically, kind of classic, I don't want to say class politics, but there is a bit of that, which is, having social services being cut, and kind of getting fucked around, having taxes for rich people being cut, but yet, stuff that helps people who are in need also gets cut, right? So, and then it's like, oh, we're just dumb. We're just going to take it. So, I mean, I also kind of wrote a lot of the lyrics in the songs to be, I guess, a little more optimistic than, 6 Beers, because 6 Beers was more like, oh, you're in the shower, the world's gone to hell, you're kind of hopeless, you're drunk, That's kind of a shitty message. This was more like, no, you know what? Let's get to work. You're not dumb. You can change these relations. You can make a better world.
You can be woke, stoked, and broke.
You can be woke, stoked, and broke. You can literally just say, look, we're at this abyss. We're staring at it. It's now time for action. And I think so much of that song is just a call to arms, for better or worse kind of words. I don't know, Mitch, if you have anything more to say on that. But
I don't know if I can speak add much more to the lyrical content, but that was as I had mentioned before, that was one of those songs that like Will had been stewing on for a long time, and like the first time I heard it, I really liked the whoa melody, and we just tried to build out from that. So like the intro part, for example, was something that like I remember when we were writing that, it was like I always envisioned it in my head as an opening track when we play live. And then what I'm most proud of in that song is we finally got Johnny to play the quintessential punk beat. Johnny's not really a punk drummer. In fact, like he's sort of you know, like he grew up listening to, like, he played Tony Hawk video games and stuff like that, but you know, he wanted to go to school to be like a jazz percussionist. He really likes like kind of like funk bands, and like it's not really his domain, so to speak. And for like 3 EPs, we've been trying to get him to play that beat, and he finally did it in this song. And so like that's the big ending. And I that's probably my favorite part of the song.
Well, and that's what's great about Woke Shook and Broke too. Like, it's like I said, it's a song that I think everyone can relate to. Like, you touched on it before, Will, how like it's kind of like a call to arms. That's kind of how I felt, where I was kind of like, yeah, okay. So that's definitely cool to hear about. So the next track that we had was Elon, Take Me Home. So we've kind of already talked a little bit about this, but to me, before I even heard the song, I was like, is this like a ballad to Elon Musk or something? Like, it just made me chuckle the second I heard the name. Simply put, it's a killer song it's like hook central, where there's all these great parts that are very accessible to sing along to for everybody. Also, the chorus kind of made me chuckle just because of the lyric of, you know, Elon, take me home. I don't know why, it just kind of made me chuckle. And I definitely get the feeling that there is a story behind this song. I kind of feel like there has to be. So I'm really curious to hear about it. So Will, starting with Will with lyrical content, kind of walk me through, what is Elon, take me home, and what does it mean to you?
So I think a lot of the song is kind of critical of a couple things. Firstly, the idea that we've kind of adopted in our culture, that we can kind of like innovate our way out of problems, that we can just rely on sort of mega billionaire CEOs to just kind of solve world issues, and that like we don't have to do anything. Like, we'll just be able to buy our way out of a problem. Like, one of our consumption choices will be enough to fix climate change, or you know, will be enough to just sort of end a problem immediately. But the big issue is that, you know, that's not the case. Often what we're buying things that aren't very useful, or are just, you know, making someone else rich. And, you know, we're not really kind of, we shouldn't sort of rely on just putting blind faith in kind of powerful people. And that we're kind of moving towards this weird kind of Black Mirror future, which is kind of alluded to in the end. I mean, so much of the song kind of goes and is just critical not only of just Elon Musk, but like, you know, how much technology has kind of affected our social behavior. So even the swipe left, swipe right. I mean, what I love about that is it's kind of, it's like a dance, you know, like the electric slide or something like that, like to do this or that. But it is showing how like discorporated people kind of are engaging in like relations that were so much more natural, right? Like, now it's just like, if you don't like someone, you know, just swipe them out of existence. Yeah, exactly. Right. They're gone. They're out of your mind. They don't exist, right?
And it's like, it's such an interesting metaphor for life with that. Like, that's what I and I don't usually break down and talk about lyrical content personally, because I always like, there's some times where either I've nailed it or I've been like way off. So I'm always like, I don't like to talk about it. But to me, that one part especially, I was like, I mean, as someone who, you know, I mean, I haven't been in the dating pool luckily for a while, because I've, you know, found my person. But beforehand, I mean, I wasn't around for the whole swipe left, swipe right necessarily. It was just before that. But damn, like, I can only as someone who has friends that are in that dating pool right now, it's like, it's brutal to watch someone just sit there and go, no, she's kind of hot. No, like, What? Like, that's it? Just there's you're not gonna.
It's turned so much of social relations into like a job interview, or like buying an Amazon package, right?
Yes.
You like to look at this person. Oh, hey, look, they're gonna be at your house. But it's not even so much. It's like people are just commodities, right? Like you can just kind of trade, or in this case, you're buying them to fulfill your own desire. But the downside of these things is that you aren't, this is not how things have been done for thousands of years. People had to meet each other. Relationships weren't just, oh, you're buying this superficial profile of someone. It was, you knew someone. There's all these other kind of social or communal components towards it. And we're eviscerating that just to make someone else really rich on it. And that's kind of a bad trade, in my opinion, at least. For sure, yeah. I mean, I can get behind that. I mean, even with, people nowadays that they rely so much on their, their profile on the internet, so to speak, and who they. And I mean, that's coming from. That's coming from me, who is like social media ambassador for a company. But I also know that, okay, when I meet someone in person, like, I am who I am all the time. And there's been times where I've met people who either I've met online or that, I've seen online. Okay, this person seems like, exhibit A. And then you meet them and it's like, oh, you're completely fake online and you're this person. Or the opposite. This person seems really the person they portray themselves to be in this, fake world, so to speak, is very, prissy and they're really stuck up. But then you meet them and you're like, this is like this person's a sweetheart and they're super down to earth and you can have an intelligent conversation with them and disagree and still, move forward. Whereas online, you're biting everyone's head off. What the hell? Like, just, it's such a weird and interesting thing to kind of sit and dissect for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of the duality of man, the funny thing about this song, right, is like, we're framing it as like, it's a song about this like late capitalist narrative that technology or techno oligarchy will save us from our problems, from isolation, whatever it is. But like fundamentally, this song is rooted in like Johnny complaining that we didn't have any songs that girls could dance to. So.
Yeah, I mean, the irony is that, like a big problem with our band is that our audience is probably way too male. And so we've been trying to fix this a bit. I don't know if it works. Who knows? We never tried it live. So we played the song once live. Yeah, we played it once live and it went over really well. But
I shake my booty to it. So, I mean, yeah. Yeah, like that's not what we were going for, but I appreciate it.
I got a so the cover of the EP has our friend of the band, Cam and Cindy Klein's English bulldog, who's named Llarold. That's where we got the namesake for the EP. Obviously.
He is the goodest doggo.
Yeah, absolutely, just the most handsome boy. But so like obviously like I sent Cam and Cindy a copy of the EP, and then Cam sent me a Snapchat the other day of like Cindy was just like at their counter, and she wasn't even aware that she was being filmed, and she was just kind of shaking her hips to it, like and it was just like that's exactly what we were kind of going for, at least.
So there you go.
A lot of our music is kind of predicated on being like, oh, hey, here's a song in like a major key, but we're sneaking in like this kind of cryptic message behind it. So if you like, it's possible that people could listen to Elon Musk and kind of miss all the subtext, which in my opinion is almost just as powerful because it's like I get to go off and go on my little rant, but some people might just be like, hey, this is a nice song. This sounds good.
No, this is such a happy-go-lucky song. Well, it's like, I don't mean to keep going back and so on, but just it made me chuckle with what you just said there because it's very true. Like, you go to, 6 beers. Yeah. It sounds like this really, like the first time I played it for my friends and we were like all drinking, they're like, oh, it's kind of a fun, listen to what... Yes, it is a fun song, and yes, you can all sing along to it when you're drinking, and it's really fun. But like, listen to what he's actually saying. And they're like, oh. I'm like, yes. So it's kind of funny that, like you just said, I could still rant and, talk about what I want to talk about while still having this song that can, make people shake their hips and want to dance and be like, oh, what a great song.
Like this was... Oh, continue, Mitch. Sorry.
I was just going to throw a little jab. The easiest way to get along with Will is to not actually listen to what he says, but... But go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Savage. Yeah, no, I'll take that. The other thing I was going to say about like the whole kind of dual meaning song trick, I mean, it's something that you'd hear in like a song like Pumped Up Kicks, which is which was a huge hit, very, very popular, but was about school shootings.
Yeah.
And it's kind of really like perverse and sick. But it's also a trick that was kind of done by bands like the Smiths, where all their songs were really, really major. And then you'd have Morrissey that would kind of drone on and like kind of cry over all of them. But it was conceivable that you could listen to these songs without really focusing on that. And they kind of had this like tension in it. And so Elon Musk, Six Beers, Woke, Stoked, and Broke to some extent, Eric Sparrow, a lot of the songs that we've done in the past have that, where it's this tension between like the lyrics are kind of sad or discussing perhaps maybe complex or uncomfortable ideas, but through the medium of like major keys that are accessible.
Definitely, and I think that's a beautiful explanation of that song, and it definitely is a that was actually the first single as well, if I'm not mistaken, right? That was the first one you guys dropped, and I saw people like reposting it and it blowing up and everything. So definitely speaks for itself on what a great song it is. So that's really cool to hear. Now the next song that we heard, you're gonna need to explain a little bit at least for people who don't know what the thing is, but you can't play Shell with Chelsea Wolfe. So for me, simply put, awesome, very hooky track. But for those people who don't know, first off, what the hell is Chell? I know what it is, but what the hell is Chell? Because there might be some people out there that are like, what the hell is it? And is this song really actually about how you can't play Chell with Chelsea Wolfe? And is that the Chelsea Wolfe that I think it is?
Yes.
Okay. For those of you who are not aware, she's you're talking about the gothic, like folk rock singer.
Yeah, I mean, she does have like heavier stuff.
Yes, yeah. I think most people know her as she's the and this is a really, and I hate it because I think she's super talented and she has such diverse music. But I've heard some people say, "Oh yeah, this Chelsea, she has this song that's like kind of folky goth," and I'm like, really? She has all this other great stuff that's super heavy too, but anyway.
Yeah, she's a complicated artist. I guess, okay, so I came up with this idea a little inebriated for the title. We initially had a working title for the song, which was just called Dad Kyle.
Dad Kyle?
For a long time.
I love
Why
that.
did we call it Dad Kyle?
Well, the song... I play in D-A-D F sharp A-E tuning for it, and so I think that's where the dad part comes from, and then I don't know why we call it dad. Yeah,
His name's after Kyle. Because Kyle is like the most dad of the group. Like Kyle's the most likely to be a homeowner within the next 5 years. So he is kind of like the dad of the group. He never gets too inebriated. He always drives to gigs and stuff. He
drives our drunk asses home.
Drives our drunk asses. So, but yeah, and then I was showing a couple friends of mine this track in my apartment, and I played it for him, and then one of my buddies was like, I don't know, we just started riffing, and my buddy Joe, and then he's like, oh, you can't play Chell to Chelsea or Chell to Chelsea Wolfe, and then it kind of turned into Chell with Chelsea Wolfe. But basically, yeah, Chell in this context is referring to NHL video games, which I think within the band kind of symbolize, the apex of bro culture.
Like some people are going to be like, oh, chill, bro. Yeah. Like, it seems like such like as someone who I don't play any NHL games or anything, but like I know all about that culture because I have friends who are in it, and it's like to them it's like a second nature. Like they don't understand how can you not know what this is, but like
I mean, they really screwed up the controls in the last couple of years. I'm more of a chill, like, 02, 03 kind of guy. I like the simple
last
controls.
couple years.
The last
couple 2002. Bro, that was well over a decade ago.
NHL 02 soundtrack is so good. I highly recommend it.
It
is Tony Hawk tier good soundtrack. Fedorov,
hang on now. That is a bold statement.
No, it honestly is. I stand by this statement.
Okay.
The downfall of the Chell video game series, it happened about, 4 or 5 years ago. And when you play online, you used to be able to take control of your goalie and then just skate out to the blue line. And because of the camera angle, when the other team would be coming in, they wouldn't see you, and you could just run your goalie into the player. But for whatever reason, you can't do that now. And so it's, I don't know.
Shit.
It's Thanks, Obama.
Yeah.
We're gonna go on change.org right now, and we're gonna petition.
So anyways, so the joke of the song is you can't like play like these bro video games to like Chelsea Wolfe because she's a bit of a downer. and like that's kind of a metaphor for the song because the song is kind of this downer in the entire EP. It is the one that I think content-wise is the most depressing. And that's so the joke of the song is kind of self-referential. But the song is not a joke. The song is a serious song.
It's a serious song with a funny title. And
but that's so common in like post-hardcore. I mean, like a part of me, it's like I grew up listening to like I Wrestled the Bear once and stuff like that. You'd get like, songs like Taste Like Kevin Bacon, and which I think is still a great title, or It Was Cold and There Are Wolves Outside. So like,
what are you talking about?
I love that though. So part of me was also kind of playing homage to that. And like you said earlier, you said out of all the songs, I think this one has the most kind of post-hardcore themes to it. And so that's also a bit of an homage to some of those post-hardcore bands.
For sure, yeah. That's one thing I didn't really touch on that I was going to kind of end off with saying that it's definitely those post-hardcore elements, which some people will argue that like, I've had times before where I've said, oh, this seems post-hardcore to me. And people are like, that's not post-hardcore. And I'm like, listen,
yeah.
The definition of post-hardcore to me, that's what it sounds like. And there's definitely those elements in there. But yeah, definitely the most kind of like, and I think that's a good thing that you have that song that's kind of a, not in a bad way, but a quote unquote, like you said, a downer. Mm-hmm. I think it's good to have that song, especially when it's a 4-song EP. That's kind of like, okay, there's a little bit more of a, I guess, of a not a more serious song, but like just a very mellow out kind of downer in a good way kind of song to kind of small things up here.
Our friends over at the Prelude Press did a review, and they described the song as emotionally vulnerable. And
yes.
Yeah, I thought that was like kind of caught. I mean, like Will wrote the lyrics, but they are kind of sad.
Yeah, the lyrics were based on my uncle's death, who died of I'd like to say maybe a 10-year addiction to alcoholism. And a couple years ago, we were playing a show, and before we went on, I get this phone call from my mom, and she's just screaming because she found him.
Oh God!
And we were somewhat out of town, and it was difficult. So I ended up playing the show and then going to her afterwards, and yeah, that was fucked. That was a really kind of fucked moment. So a lot of the song is kind of in his memoriam. I know it has a bit of a goofy title, and I think a lot of that was done on purpose. So it was a little more cryptic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I a lot of that is that song, and it's also a song that's kind of dealing with a subject of like, I don't know, non-religious death, which is in this sense, it's like saying, I hope you're okay wherever you are, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're not going to sit here and be like, oh, like, he's in a better place.
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
And so the song is kind of aspirational in the sense that, like, I hope I would like that. I don't know what is the case. I can't really speak to that, but that is kind of a lot of the meaning of that song. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely, I mean, yeah, but at the same time, it's also, you know, I think it's a goofy title aside. It's a great song, and it's a great, you know, way to memorialize someone, you know, who you lost in your life. And it's a beautiful song, and I mean, beautiful meaning too. Very, like they said, they're very emotionally vulnerable. And it's and thank you for sharing that too, Will, because it's always cool to hear, you know, when you know, okay, there's got to be something here. Like there's got to be a reasoning as to where this came from. So, you know, it's always cool for people to kind of hear here's the real, as great as it is to be kind of cryptic. Sometimes it's also really nice to hear the, you know, the story behind that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't even think I really told Mitch or anybody in the band that story, or at least the meaning behind the lyrics.
Well, now you know. Now
I do remember that. I remember that show though. That was one of our worst shows, just because like what was it? I remember you got the news and like you were obviously upset, and you didn't know if you should just leave and we should cancel, but we were like on in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
like we were like getting our stuff together. Yeah, but it was just one of those like. We played a big room and there weren't a lot of people there, and it just kind of everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And as Johnny would say, it was one of those shows that puts hair on your chest. And yeah, but you know, yeah. Like it's cool to see that. Like, sorry, Will, go ahead.
No, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, just basically like, you know, we were able to still create something from it, I guess. But what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, yeah, it was, you know, the song is in essence a bit of like a silk purse out of a sow's ear, I guess, in the sense that, you know, I tried to make something out of at least lyrically, out of a bad situation. That being said, though, I mean, I can't take credit for the vibes of the song. Mitch wrote the guitar parts on that song, except for the high kind of lines. I wrote those, but Mitch came up with the majority of the structure of the song, and then I think Kyle actually came up with the chorus.
Yeah.
Chord progression, yeah. So it was a real kind of group dynamic that went into it. And at the end, though, the end of the song, that sort of build, you know, that huge kind of drop at the end, like that's taking obviously from kind of the, you know, the post-hardcore stuff and like breakdowns and stuff like that. And of course, we're not really going to do a breakdown because we're not really a breakdown band, and I don't think there are breakdown bands anymore. We're not in high school.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Pulse 40. But I mean, I was taking a lot from bands like Swans, who are kind of like this noisy, primitive kind of very punching. Rhythmically, you know, like almost caveman kind of points. And I think when we were jamming that bit at the end, I was kind of, you know, being condescending to everybody to kind of push it a little more intense. I don't know if you remember that, Mitch, a bit, but yeah. So that's why like the end of that song has like that big bit, because we just we really stepped out of our shell as a genre and kind of tried something a little different, and I think it paid huge dividends. And when we recorded it, it sounded really cool. There's also an acoustic guitar that is playing behind that big drop at the end, and that's why it sounds even a little more chunky.
Definitely a lot going on.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mitch, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, just I guess musically, like Into It Over It has this song called Staring at the Ceiling, and it has a really big kind of, not breakdowny ending, but just like a kind of a slam ending. And I remember like we take a lot of influence and inspiration from them, and so I remember writing that ending and just talking to Johnny and being like, this is our staring at the ceiling kind of ending that we want here. And yeah,
this is what we're going for now, let's make it our own kind of thing.
Exactly.
Definitely. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, that's thanks so much for sharing all that, guys. That's cool. Because I knew, second I see a title like that, I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. So I knew there had to be There had to be a lot going on that song. Now we come to the final track on the EP, and actually my personal favorite, which is "Don't Let Me Go!" Exclamation mark. I guess I should yell, but I don't want to yell right now in my apartment. So I did that once. I did that the one day I'm recording, and I yelled really loud about something, and literally like my neighbors came to make sure I was okay. I was like, oh shit, all right.
That was nice. Did they care? That's good.
Yeah. I was like, okay, you know, I appreciate that.
That was pre-corona.
No, now they would not do that. They'd be like, oh, I think TJ died. All right.
Yeah.
No, corona, no. Anyway. But definitely another track with, you know, lots of hooks. To me, definitely still brings that very kind of familiar Rawls, blah, blah. Sorry, my tongue just got way larger for some reason. The very familiar kind of Rawls Royce sound, while still, again, like we've touched on a lot in this chat here, showing kind of the growth and the evolution of the band a little bit. What can you guys kind of tell me about this track? Breakdown, Don't Let Me Go.
Well, it was the last song that we wrote for the EP. We kind of had we had some, you know, some vague ideas for structure and some riffs that we liked, but it was definitely one that we kind of struggled writing for the longest period of time, and then it all just kind of clicked at the last minute, which was cool to see it all come together. Like even the like the lead guitar melody, for example. Like we were going into the studio. It was my last day that I was going to be available to go into the studio before I moved back to New Brunswick. And like Will was picking me up at like 11, and I'm in my basement at 8 a.m. trying to write this guitar part. Like it was kind of frantically.
Yeah, very frantic. Like, oh my god.
And yeah, but I had like, you know, I'd had this idea in my head for a long time, and I was just, we just hadn't quite got it yet. And then I finally figured it out, and it was like I didn't even have time really to show the guys. It was just kind of like, I really hope you like this, and it just kind of worked. But
I have something, and it has to. I hope you.
Yeah. Otherwise, we didn't. I was leaving, so we'd have to put some woes over it or something. I don't know what we were gonna do.
Some woes.
But, yeah.
I don't want to just make me chuckle.
But lyrically too, like that was like we kind of like we wanted to have a bit more of like a sappy song about a girl. We didn't have one of those yet on this EP, and so I actually wrote the song about my now girlfriend Sarah.
Aww.
Yeah. And
every EP needs a ballad. Okay.
Right. Like I don't want to be too cliche here, but no, she's so she was an English major in university, and she had this copy of Salinger's Catcher in the Rye, and she gave it to me because she said it was one of her favorite books. And I guess one night after she came home from the pub, and this is before we had started dating, and you know, we'd been like hanging out, and we both kind of got out of relationships, so it wasn't a good time for us to commit to anything too serious, but like we both clearly had feelings for each other. And she did this thing where she, like, when she was drunk, she went through and like circled letters on several different pages, and then she gave me the book, and she didn't tell me that she basically like encrypted a message in it, and it took me like till the summer to figure it out, but it spelt out "Don't Let Me Go," and like I was like, all right, if I'm not gonna get some inspiration from this, I'll probably never get inspiration from anything. But that's kind of like the lame origin of
that is so sweet. I'm crying.
Yeah,
that's so sweet. I'm a really sentimental, emotional like guy, so that just touches me in the cockles of my heart, man. That's awesome.
Hell yeah. And
That's
so
awesome.
when we released it as a single, we sort of did like a play on the
I was gonna ask about that, because that was really cool.
Yeah, so Will did that, which is pretty sweet, and it was just sort of like
I don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, it's just rooted in the cover of the book that she gave me. So like we clearly had a theme, and we rolled with it, and yeah, I don't know. Will, what else do you want to add?
Yeah, that the song's also kind of referential to just I don't know. I had a friend of mine who I showed the song to, and he described it as being like almost like a love letter to kind of all the various segments of like pop punk over the last like 20 years. So there's like segments of it that have more of like a older emo vibe, like The Promise Ring or like Sunny Day Real Estates. I think the chorus actually really gives that. But then there's other parts that kind of draw from more like new stuff. But then we also kind of throw in like lines like at the end of it, you know, we say, and in the end, we'll sing songs never meant. Never meant is a reference to the meme American football song Never Meant. So we kind of draw from there. We actually, while we were recording this, we saw American football, or before we were recording it. So that kind of played a bit of a role into it. We make a reference to the Smiths record, Strange Days, Here We Come Again, which is the last Smiths record, and that's before they broke up. So that also kind of plays into the tension of, you know, is this relationship gonna last? You know, are we feigning our embrace? And then we kind of go to that weird like timing change at the end, which initially I wrote for the same song as Elon. So it was actually in like the Elon kind of riffs, but then we transposed it and then stuck it at the end of Don't Let Me Go. So it does have a degree of disjointedness because it wasn't initially written for those riffs, but I think it actually turned out really well.
Yeah, we were trying to throw in some time changes on this EP. There's one in Elon as well. We like going into 6 to have some fun for a bit.
Yeah.
So.
And therefore Will got his part in there too, you know.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying. Like it was the last song to kind of come together, and we were just throwing ideas at it, and a lot of stuff just didn't really seem to fit. And then at the last minute, it was kind of like, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool. Maybe we should roll with that.
I think we have to give huge credit to our producer, Eric Altamonte at Watershed Studio, who honestly is our fifth Beatle, and who I think really tied these segments together so well and was so patient with our own ideas and our own sort of unprofessionalness, because so much of it, like we were literally writing the chorus 5 minutes before recording the chorus, like lyrically, like we were writing it literally on the day of, because it was just, you know, like there were lots of drafts and stuff like that, and like if you look at all the voice notes and all the info that we send each other back and forth, because the irony of this band is, although, you know, we're together and we have chemistry and all that, we are very much a correspondence band because we're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, you're not all in the same town or anything even.
So everything is reliant upon, you know, sending so many edits of things, sending so many different versions of lyrics, and kind of then eventually rolling with some. And, you know, if you look, every song probably has like maybe 20 voice notes and, you know, a ton of text strings to it. So, you know, this song was one of those things like Johnny didn't even know, like Johnny laid the drums for it, but didn't even know about Mitch's guitar parts, like that, like his cool lead part in the do, 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 do. Like he didn't know about that because he was already in New Brunswick. Johnny didn't even know any of the bass lines on it because Kyle tracked the bass lines while Johnny was in New Brunswick.
So Johnny didn't know.
Johnny just like
Johnny
literally heard the song after it was done and was like, "Oh yeah, this sounds good."
I don't mean to make a really stupid joke, but I couldn't help it because you said it like 3 or 4 times.
Johnny doesn't know.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Like Johnny didn't even know what the lyrics were. Like he didn't even know what the chorus sounded like. He didn't like anything, and he was like,
Johnny
"Oh yeah, this sounds good."
No.
But here, his faith in us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm just making a stupid joke, but yeah. It's...
Oh no! I mean, there is definitely truth to it. So much of it was just kind of this really lucky mix. And the irony is actually we really wrote and recorded this track the same way as we did And So On, which was once again corresponded, piece in, everybody kind of wrote different pieces, like And So On the track. And I think they both kind of have, I don't know, a similarity in terms of that they both kind of like, I don't know, I feel like they're more or less in the same genre. And they're both kind of big tracks at the end, and I don't know, are pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big build to the end. Like we constructed them as songs that were designed to end the EPs.
Yeah, they were like sisters. Like, I think the one thing that Llarold has in common with And So On as an EP is that, you know, we started, like, Woke, Stoked, and Broke has kind of like a sistership with like Six Beers. It's perhaps longer, there's more changes, there's similar content, but there's a relation. And at the end, there's also a relation between like Don't Let Me Go and So On. Mm-hmm. At least that's how I kind of see them.
Definitely. Well, it's like, you know, I touched on before, like how to me there's parts of this that kind of gave me that, what I consider the quote unquote classic Rawls Royce sound, where it's very, so I think that's why and this has been so fun kind of breaking this down with you guys, because me as just a listener, I'll be like, okay, what is it that I'm hearing that is giving me the vibe of, you know, like an And So On? Why am I hearing this vibe? So to hear you guys literally say, you know, we think it's kind of like a sister song in the sense of it was structured that way, and that was a conscious effort. It was very cool for me as a listener to hear.
The only other thing I'll add too is we went into the studio with like several ideas that we wanted to get out on this EP. Like, for example, like I told you earlier, we really wanted Johnny to play like the punk beat because he refused to play it, and we finally got him to do it. And another thing we wanted on this EP was Kyle to sing more by himself. Like we love him because he does these beautiful harmonies, and he complements Will's voice, I think, very well, if I can say that. But like he has his own verse in Don't Let Me Go, and that was something that we wanted. Was
yeah. It's a very Kyle heavy song, and I think that's why it's one of our better songs. But so is Elon too. Like, Kyle did a lot of the vocals on Elon that weren't, you know, screamy, and were a lot more pretty. So it was nice. I think one complaint that I had on our last EP was that there wasn't enough on And So On, was that there wasn't enough like personality being shown by us. So if you listen to a band like Blink-182, you know when like when Mark Hoppus is playing, and you know when he's singing, and you know when Matt, who's 100% the guitar player of Blink-182.
Tom who?
No, there's no Tom. Tom doesn't exist. Only Matt.
Who is Tom? Never heard
you know when Mark is singing, you know when Tom.
Of course, yeah.
So we wanted to kind of at least help that a bit more in this process, which was sort of, you know, carving out more spaces for people, and then using kind of group choruses a little more wisely. And I think we did that a lot better on this EP than we did on And So On, which is a lot more kind of sloppy and just everyone singing, and it doesn't really cultivate like that sort of exchange. And Don't Let Me Go, I think, does that really well.
Definitely. Well, with what you just said, like, again, like I touched on earlier, it's that evolution of, you know, going from everybody singing in a bar to, okay, let's kind of just tighten things up a little bit more. Let's, instead of having every single song have this huge chorus that everyone in the bar is singing along to, let's maybe save that for, you know, one or two songs, which is it's really fun to kind of, because after I listened to Llarold, I went back and listened to And So On just to kind of really hear the differences, and that was something that is very apparent, and it's cool to hear you guys kind of break that down. There's been a lot of fun doing the showcase this way. I don't usually do them this way, but this has been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of really great stories being told and breaking down the tracks, and you know, I thank you guys for coming on and doing this with me. It's been an awful lot of fun. Full disclosure, guys, we are going to keep talking and maybe do another episode or not that you may or may not potentially see next week. Maybe. I don't know. Wink, wink. But before we go here today, guys, again, thank you very much for coming on. And where can the good people find Rawls Royce to check out your music more?
Well, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, the Google Play, I think Amazon, which is really funny. You can find us pretty much anywhere. Oh, Bandcamp. I mean, honestly, if you want to be a nice guy, or person, you would buy our music on Bandcamp because we don't get paid enough. But that being said, if you have a playlist on Spotify and you like some of our songs, feel free to add it on Spotify. That also helps us out a bit too. So, just and look for us whenever we're coming back out of the Corona apocalypse. We should be playing somewhere in southwestern Ontario. We'll appear one day and
a dive bar near you.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get into all that and everything going on in the world right now next week on the show when I sit down again with Mitch and Will to have a little chat-ski. I mean, full disclosure, we're gonna be having that conversation shortly, but we're gonna wrap it up here today. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the Hodder Show album showcase. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having us, giving us a platform, letting us indulge, talk about our own shit.
Yeah.
Hell yes. What we do. That's all we do.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, man.
All right, guys. There you have it. The Hodder Show Music Showcase with Will and Mitch from Rawls Royce. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. That was so much fun. Kind of the best of both worlds. You got the music showcase, but then you also kind of got a bit of an interview. And I really like this format. I think it was a lot of fun to, as much as people have said in the past, mainly the bands, that they enjoy kind of hearing my perspective on the songs and hearing which song's my favorite and which three are my favorite. I think that it was really fun having the guys on to kind of dissect things a little bit more and not in an interview-like thing. I think that was really cool, and who knows, maybe that's something we'll do in the future. Let me know. Be sure to hit me up and let me know what you thought of this format of the music showcase. Maybe this is something I can do in the future if the guys or gals in the bands are available. I think that would be a lot of fun, man. That would be a lot of fun. Just like I hope you had fun here today on the show. Regardless of how you listen, be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a like or comment or leave a rating if you can. Really seriously appreciate it. Our Apple Podcast numbers are going up, which is really fun because I haven't, had many hits from Apple Podcasts the last couple of years, and the fact that our numbers are kind of going up on there. It's very cool. So be sure to leave a rating on there if you can. Helps the show. It helps me out. Either way, though, I appreciate the hell out of you. Be sure, of course, as well to hit the Hodder Show up on all the social medias, Facebook and Instagram. And hit me up anytime at thehoddershow@gmail.com. Would love to hear your thoughts on this format of the showcase and just hear how you're doing, man. The world is crazy right now. But, I have full faith in humanity that we're going to pull this through this and be just fine. And in a few months, we're going to be looking back on this time and, over a beer and saying, man, how crazy was that shit? Either way, though, thank you very much again for listening to the show. And I, of course, want to give a humongous shout out to my Patreon supporters, Will of Rawls Royce, who you heard all about and from here today, and my boy Scotty D, who is the owner of the greatest damn window cleaning and gutter cleaning and power washing company in Clarington, Ontario, Canada. Obviously, right now, he is not working because he can't. But when all this is said and done and you look at your windows and your deck and you go, wow, I need my windows and my deck cleaned, hit my boy up, Suds Window Cleaning. He is the best in the business. And if you're in the Clarington, Ontario, Canada area, you need to hit him up. He is the best, and you are the best. Thank you so much. Again, I'm very thankful today for you guys checking this out. Hopefully I was able to take you away from the craziness for a little while. Audio fist bump. Boom. And I will catch you next time on The Hodder Show. Take it easy, guys.